The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
I need to make this disclaimer real quick because this is a sports show, but there's obviously something extremely major happening right now. I just want to say right now, this is not a political show. This is, in my opinion, not a political commentary show. I am not interested in politics anymore. I used to be, but not anymore. But the Donald Trump hush money verdicts are coming in. So.
All 34 counts guilty.
Oh, that was quick.
All 34 counts. Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. I thought that was going to be like something that takes an hour to read.
Right? I'm sitting here watching an update of friends of mine on a Discord chat, and it was like 1, 2, and whoa, okay.
Wow. Because I remember my mom used to watch a lot of court TV.
Sure.
When it was Court TV. I think it's actually now, because it went from Court TV to True TV, and I think they just made another Court TV. And
they did, yes.
Because I know in New York, the state of New York, they don't like film it live in the actual courtroom. Some states do allow that.
Correct, yes.
And I think it was Casey Anthony. I think it was her. Actually, I would have been in college at that time. The whole Casey Anthony trial, that was basically aired as it happened.
Yes.
Because it was in Florida, I think, and in Florida you can do that.
I actually was joking the other day about a case that we covered in Greeley because Court TV was in for the entirety of it. Plus, then you had the Denver TV stations with all of the satellite trucks that were on hand as well. Trying to get into the courtroom was a challenge. We'll put it that way.
But there's been you could fall down an easy rabbit hole on like YouTube or something, just like listen to all these verdicts and people finding out that they're guilty of murder or something like that. But it's like these paragraphs that the jury has to read per count, and there's 34 of these. So I figured it would take forever to go through all that.
No, they unanimous on all counts and fired them off very quickly.
It's like, sir, you might as well just stay seated. This is going to take a while.
Yeah, right. Holy cow.
So, wow, how about that?
We'll get more from CBS coming up as we continue today, but that's just one piece of the afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we got a full 2 hours of sports to talk about. Coming up at 5:10, looking forward to the conversation with Andrew Hutchinson. He is the managing editor of Best of Arkansas Sports. K-State tomorrow will play tomorrow night, at least we hope they do. Rain could definitely be a factor this weekend in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But it's the NCAA Tournament Baseball Regional for the Batcats at 3 seed, taking on 2 seed Louisiana Tech at 7 o'clock. But again, that is weather pending big time. I know that, I forget Arkansas's head coach name. Van Horn, is that right?
Yeah, Dave Van Horn, the former Nebraska head coach.
Yeah, and he was talking to the media about how they're thrilled that they get the early game because they can hopefully avoid the rain. And what that means is
it's a great point.
If K-State does end up getting rained out tomorrow night, that means they'll have to play an early game Saturday, and they're going to play it most likely a doubleheader.
Right. The NCAA, though, would try to keep them from having to do it as much as possible.
See, it's been so long since K-State's been in a regional. I don't remember how they would handle potential rain. Like, do they try to move the schedule up? Like, are we going to have a show tomorrow if they try to do that? You know, that kind of thing.
No, they would try to do it still with the schedule as is, just that they would change where the games fall. But that's also why you have the ability to play that extra day Monday as something that's already blocked out on the schedule.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it could be a 4-day tournament depending on how the teams play, because it's a double elimination.
Correct. And as I discussed it yesterday, in fact, on the morning show, what it amounts to is essentially you get to that championship game, and if the team that has one loss beats the no-loss team, boom, you're into the next day.
But I know there are fans of the Cats that are also fans of the show and will be listening today. Well, we're going to ask Andrew just about what you need to know about going to Fayetteville and visiting their ballpark, one of the best environments in college baseball. and what to know about Fayetteville as well. I know just pretty nearby, actually, Fayetteville was not too long ago hit by a tornado. Mm-hmm. So, and there was some significant damage there. So.
I wonder if the barbecue restaurant that we went to that night is still in place.
Do you remember
that
what
was so good?
Well,
no, I don't remember what it was.
Ask Andrew.
Because that was just a matter of, we were with the team and it was, the whole group of us. So I didn't pay all that much attention on our way in.
We will get to Arthur Kaluma today. As a matter of fact, I've left 2 segments open just in case that we need it to talk about Arthur Kaluma. What are the chances that he does come back to K-State, even though he is withdrawn his name for the NBA draft process. He is now he's already in the transfer portal. So his decision is to come still, but we're also still in a dead period, and that's going on until Monday. So that's why there's no, the last couple of weeks there's been no visits or anything. Right now there's no contact. So, but that'll get back underway on Monday. That's when that dead period does wrap up, and I'm sure K-State is looking to wrap up this class very soon, as we head into June. College football kickoff times, TV destinations for the first 3 weeks. Pretty much the whole slate was announced. In an hour or two, we'll look at more of the Big 12. We can lead off, though, talking about the Cats if you feel like it. I feel like it. When we got our 3 kickoff times, nothing was too crazy. 6 o'clock for the August 31st UT Martin home opener and season opener against the Skyhawks. I prefer the night kickoff in that opening game, especially against an FCS team when you know it's going to be on ESPN Plus. So you get to make the decision on the kickoff time. Yeah, I think 6 o'clock is always the right time, because Cats, you have all day to plan, you have all day to do your thing, and then the family reunion kicks off at 6:02 or whatever it's officially going to be, or 6:05 or whatever that is. Second time in almost 2 years. K-State will play a game in New Orleans. But this is a true road matchup against the Tulane Green Wave, who beat the Cats 2 seasons ago.
A little bit smaller stadium, too.
And a little bit smaller stadium, but it's going to be packed. And that's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff. So, again, K-State will have another group of 5 game at an 11 a.m. kickoff. I think this is the 3rd in a row. And but it's also the 2nd year in a row that Cats will have a non-con game on the road.
And it's ESPN televised.
It'll either be on ESPN or ESPN2.
Yeah.
And I think the other game that could get one of those spots is Cincinnati and Pitt.
Ooh.
So you're talking about a couple of Power Fours, I guess is what you would say now.
And that one's a good regional rivalry.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a cousin who lives in New Orleans.
Okay.
And I sent him a text earlier today, and I was like, what kind of weather do you expect on September 7th with a game kicking off at 11 a.m.? And he said 3 words, hot and humid. There's no doubt. That's going to be a really warm game unless something crazy happens, cloud cover, rain, whatever, that would cool things off a little bit. But if it's a normal day in New Orleans, that is prime humidity for New Orleans.
Better 11 o'clock, though, than later.
2:30, yeah. I looked it up earlier, and I asked the Google. I was like, Goog, what's the average temperature September 7th in New Orleans, Louisiana? 90 degrees. And you throw in the humidity,
yeah.
That's going to suck.
Yeah.
You add in the turf, that's going to suck. That's going to be a really warm day. They're going to show shots at the sidelines. You're going to see the fans going back and forth, spitting out the mist, trying to cool off the guys. Trying to cool off the Cats. Expect to be a hot day on the field, not just temperature-wise, but the Cats scoring some points with that rushing attack, that offensive attack. And then we already knew about the September 13th game against Arizona. That'll be kicking off at 7 o'clock, and we already knew as well that was going to be a part of that new Fox College Football Friday night extravaganza, which will feature 2 Big 12 games, and the rest of the slate is all Big 10. It's showcasing the Big 10 and all the matchups that will feature, a really good team and some mediocre team, pretty much the entire slate of the way.
It still amazes me that Fox thinks that that's the contract that they want the most of.
Do you like the attention, though, for K-State? You'll get ESPN, you'll get Fox right out of the gate. I'm glad that the K-State-Arizona game, because if you look at the slate, we talked about this with Mason yesterday. If you look at that slate, K-State-Arizona it's going to help. I'll phrase it this way. That's a pretty big game. I see that as one of the biggest games in that time slot throughout this season. And it's not just Fox doing Friday night games. Of course, ESPN is going to, because remember, you may have forgot about this, but who also plays at the same time on that Friday when K-State plays Arizona here at the Bill? KU and UNLV plays at the same time at Children's Mercy. They're in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County.
Oh, empty seat 1. As opposed to empty seat 2, which would be Arrowhead for them this year.
They're not going to have problems filling up Children's Mercy. Now, Arrowhead will be a different story, but the thing is, we if you remember the geography, Arrowhead's basically right across the street from the booth.
Right.
Just luckily for KU fans, it's a bit more convenient for parking. Because they're in Lawrence, around the stadium, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've been to Allen Fieldhouse, you know that when you go, you got to basically park in a parking lot that's, a mile and a half, 2 miles away from Allen Fieldhouse, and then they shuttle you over because of the very few parking spots that they have around. That's just the setup of Lawrence. It is what it is. KU fans, though, you're going to be spoiled this year, though, because of the parking you're going to get for your home games.
Right.
Children's Mercy, I mean, people use what's around there. There's an Arthur Bryant's, there's like an Applebee's.
There's a Famous Dave's, I know.
Famous Dave's, and of course you don't have Legends that far away. Everybody just uses those parking lots and
and
goes
walks.
to the game. Yeah, I just don't know what the tailgating would be like for that, because I've only been to one Sporting KC game, and I don't remember any tailgating. At least anything too hardcore, like people going all out. They're hours before kick, grills, tents, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Games, playing some cornhole or something, or I didn't really notice any, but I've only been to one game, and that was like an October game or something like that. Match, I should say. Match. So K-State will go head-to-head with KU, Fox versus ESPN in the ratings. What's going to help that K-State-Arizona game is that there's going to be numbers next to both of those teams. And that's going to obviously trump, at least in my opinion, KU-UCLA. That's a rematch of the GuaranteedRate.com Bowl or whatever it was, Inside.com Bowl. That was in Phoenix.
Yes.
What was it, 2 days prior to K-State, NC State, and the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Mm-hmm. I tell you what, UNLV gave them a bit of a fight.
Yes, they did.
And they shouldn't have. KU took care of business there in the second half. But that's a pretty big – I kind of like it kind of almost standing alone on a Friday night, but I don't like that it's taken away from high school football in our area.
Right. And especially the fact that it's 2 games.
But again, we know that the networks they're calling the shots. Over-under on the temperature August 31st, 6 o'clock for the kickoff against UT Martin. Where should we set that at? I don't remember was last year that hot? I don't, we're up in the press box, there's a little bit of AC up there, so I don't recall exactly what the weather was like.
I don't remember.
I'll never forget the North Dakota State game. In 2013 when the West Stadium Center was done. How about that? We've gone now a decade with that West Stadium Center. That game was, I think, the hottest game I've ever been to. When it comes to, and that was a night game. That was a Friday night. It was like the first game on FS1 or something like that. And man, was that a hot day. AJ looks like he's about to turn the monitor. I don't know what he's doing. That was last year. 100 degrees. That's right.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking about that being like one of the hottest kickoffs in K-State program history. That's right. That'll show up in the media guide this year. That game will now be in there as one of the hottest kickoffs ever.
Yeah.
I can't remember, was that the hottest kickoff or so that would have rivaled with that North Dakota State game. That would have probably rivaled with the Cal game. Actually, the Cal and Iowa game at Arrowhead State. I remember both of those being really hot days, but you're talking about the end of August. I think K-State played 15 games that 2003 game, or that 2003 season. Anywhere in that release, did it say, AJ, if that was the hottest game at Arrowhead, the Bill history? Nothing. I can't remember.
I believe it. I believe that the North Dakota State game was the hottest.
Was that still up there?
Yeah.
So that would have been in second place. There's like no wind. Oh,
yeah.
That was a hot, muggy, humid day at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, and of course they lost.
Sure.
Debut of Jake Waters, and what a rough day. Well, again, kickoffs for UT Martin August 31st, 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus, 11 a.m. for September 7th at Tulane, ESPN or ESPN2, 7 o'clock kickoff. Cats versus Cats, K-State, Arizona at the Bill, September 13th on Fox. Still to come in hour number 2, we'll look at the Big 12 slate in the first 3 weeks. I think week 2, the way, first of all, just the matchups is one part of it. The way it's been scheduled out, laid out, viewing with the Cats on the road, it's going to be a really fun week 2. We'll talk about that docket coming up at 5:25. Andrew Hutchinson from the Best of Arkansas Sports will join us to kick off hour number 2 to talk K-State in the regional down in Fayetteville, Arkansas, starting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Arkansas taking on SEMO. When we come back, Arthur Kaluma, chances of him returning to K-State is coming up next. We are back. Mitch Forder, Troy Coverdale, AJ Shaw with you till 6 o'clock. Full 2 hours tomorrow. Gonna have a fun show tomorrow. We have that softball pitching phenom from Wamego High School, Peyton Hardenberger, and our head coach, Luke Meyer, will be in studio tomorrow.
Great.
17 innings, 199 pitches, 30 strikeouts, and that was in one game.
I'm still floored it went 17 innings.
And it was a 2-1 final.
Yeah.
There's been a few times in my life that I've heard about or witnessed something that made my just jaw drop to the floor. Dean Wade's behind the head dunk against Oklahoma was one. Cartier Jada's dunk against KU was one of those.
Keontae Johnson against Kansas.
That was more of an O phase. Oh, goodness. What a play. Can't believe it. And you just got used to it.
Yeah,
you know?
Valid.
When it happened against Michigan State, I was in the Garden, and I was pacing the way high up media area. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. During every media timeout, I'd walk away from my seat and just kind of walk in the concourse, just kind of I couldn't sit, and that was a Sweet 16 game. Like, imagine if it was a Final Four or something. I did not walk around during the Elite Eight game because I had a really good seat, and I was right at midcourt, 3 rows up. I mean, it couldn't have been better.
So you were afraid you were going to lose it if you got up?
Not that. It was just there wasn't really anywhere to walk around. You know,
that's valid.
Was,
yeah,
kind of packed in there. What else was I going to say?
Sorry, we got distracted. Peyton Hardenberger.
But anyway, her performance in the state tournament, it's like she pitched every pitch.
Yeah.
It's all her. Good Lord.
Yeah.
What a performance.
It's a much different beast than what baseball pitching is like.
Yeah, so we'll talk to her. They don't have a pitch count.
I know.
You know, game to game.
I know.
Or, so they could, rules are rules. Take advantage of it.
Exactly.
And she wasn't coming out of the game. Well, we'll talk to him. We'll talk to him about it tomorrow. Let's see here.
That, and we'll be previewing, of course, tomorrow night's ball game. We'll hear from Matt Walters.
Yeah, we're going to hope to bring on Matt Walters, who, of course, with Brian Smoller, is going to be down in Fayetteville to call the game. K-State Sports Network from Learfield. Pregame, rather, is at 6:30 tomorrow. But hopefully, rain, I think, is going to be a factor. And I think there's actually, at this point, a decent chance that the game Friday gets pushed back. So we'll wait and see, but that's kind of the prediction right now. So I found my media guide from football this past season, and on page 143, it lists the hottest kickoff temperatures in program history. So where that 100-degree day for the Cats last season in the opener is third all time. Second all-time is against Louisiana in 2013, 102 degrees. And the hottest kickoff temperature in K-State football history against Louisiana Tech, September 2nd, 2000, 109 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
I would guess that was one of those 1 o'clock kickoffs, but I'm not exactly sure. By the way, here's a fun fact for you. The coldest kickoff time or kickoff temperature in program history was at Colorado, November of 1996, 16 degrees. The coldest kickoff temperature for a K-State home game against KU, November 2018, 24 degrees. And that was a close game.
Right.
All right, let's get to Arthur Kaluma here. We didn't get to his story yesterday, although we did talk a little bit about it with Mason Voth. Those podcasts up at newsradiokman.com. There's also just search for the game on 1350 K-Man on wherever you listen to your podcast. And thank you for those that listen, because those numbers are through the roof right now, and I greatly appreciate you listening. All right, so Arthur Kaluma, as of a few days ago, takes his name out of the yesterday took his name out of the NBA draft process, just like many others did, because yesterday was the deadline. And so Arthur is still in the transfer portal. So what does that mean? Because K-State's Jerome Tang spoke to Kellis Robinette not too long ago and said, this isn't an exact quote or anything, but basically said, if there's still a chance to bring him back, if those discussions can be had, they're going to do what they can to bring him back. That's their side of things. And what K-State, with 2 scholarships left open, and I think it's pretty clear what they need. They need a big guy. They need size. Pretty clear. Center. And another wing. A wing with some size. Well, Arthur Kaluma would be certainly that guy. 6'7" wing, averaged 14 points a game, can rebound, shoot the three. I would say he would fit right in. Mm-hmm. And plus a returning player who did start.
Right.
You'll certainly take that as well. He knows how things operate. But a big part of this equation is, what is Arthur Kaluma looking for? What kind of feedback did he get? Because he waited to the very end to get as much info as he possibly could. What feedback did he get, and how does what K-State need fit him? That's a part of it, and I would not be shocked if NIL was a big part of that as well. What does K-State have left over? After, all right, you got 11 guys here. How much of the NIL pool does that eat up? Could they also meet Arthur Kaluma's needs with name, image, and likeness? I don't know. But that's just another question. That's another part of the equation. What, of course, leans me into saying that I don't think Arthur Kaluma is coming back. My prediction was that I did feel like Arthur Kaluma was going to take his name out and not stay into the NBA draft process. Was not necessarily expecting him to jump into the transfer portal.
Right. That was the surprise part of it when it happened.
Some were, some wasn't. I was. But again, the question is, how does his needs fit K-State's needs and vice versa?
Right.
And is NIL a big part of that? Does Arthur want a big role? Like, let's look at K-State's roster right now. Doug McDaniel, C.J. Jones, David Castillo can all play the point. The other guards, Max Jones, and play the wing, really. Max Jones, Brendan Housen. Let's see. Also wings, Achor, David Gasson, Michaela Rich, Taj Manning, and you also have Bay Fall. Just by looking at that, I would predict you have Doug McDaniel, who's going to be your guy. I think he's going to be K-State's best player. And boy, him having Doug McDaniel as your point guard is quite the luxury. Mm-hmm. Them getting Achor to play wing and play that powered forward position, huge. I think he is going to be phenomenal. K-State has right now, I would say 6 or 7 guys that can play a considerable amount of minutes every day. Maybe it's even more than that. depending on the role, maybe depending on how they did a practice, depending on who's in your starting lineup. I think they could really mix it up with that, but still some holes to fill, of course.
Absolutely.
Still some holes to fill. And I do think right now this is an NCAA tournament team. I can't really tell you how far this team would go, but NCAA tournament team, yeah, for sure. This is a very talented team. But there's still some boxes that need to be checked. Would Arthur Kaluma be okay with taking a step down? Because that can affect your NIL money. So I don't know. I don't know if he'd be willing to do that. But the major reason why I don't think he's coming back, how many players have you seen enter the portal and return to their school?
A number have done so starting this year. We are starting to see a little bit of that trickle taking place.
I have noticed very little.
Not nearly to the amount of people that are going into the portal or have gone into the portal, but there have been a few that have made the move to go back to their school.
Do you have a percentage for me?
I don't.
Would it be less than 1%? I hear your point.
Yes, I would say I'm going to give you less than 5%.
Okay. So the odds are pretty. And the thing is, Arthur is going to be highly sought after.
True.
Because Mason told us this yesterday, and I went just moments ago and double-checked it. Right now, according to On3, Arthur Kaluma is the 6th best player left. And there are still a lot of teams out there that have a lot of needs. Depending on the needs, of course. But he plays a pretty prime position.
Mm-hmm.
He would have a very important role. And on a team that definitely struggled last year, but still managed to go 8-10 in the Big 12, and I'll give certainly credit to K-State for that, with their limitations, especially on the offensive side, he still averaged almost 15 points a game and rebounded the basketball, could get to the free throw line, could get to the hoop. You know, his athletic ability checks a lot of boxes for K-State. That it's exactly the kind of people they went after in the portal.
Right.
But I think you also have a lot of guys that may actually slightly, or maybe even more so, surpass Arthur in the athletics department and athletic ability. Arthur's still pretty athletic, but this whole team is going to be pretty athletic. I mean, there's a couple of things that jumped out to me when I watched everybody's film. The number one thing to me was athleticism.
Right.
Quickness, speed. When you think 5-out offense, you think this roster has quite a few of those guys that can play that ISO one-on-one, stretch the floor type of game. Spread out the defense. The K-State has a lot of that. Does Arthur come back? I don't know. I think I lean to no, but I think that possibility is left open, especially if Jerome Tang wants him to come back. They're going to try, and I'm sure Arthur's going to listen. But I'm sure he's also going to be listening to 15 other schools. Potentially. I don't know who all needs a power forward. Would he drop, a position, like go to like a small forward? The thing is, like, in the NBA, like, what do you think the average size of a small forward is? 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah.
Is it LeBron James 6? Is he 6'7"?
I think he is.
He's a small forward.
I know. I'm bad at off the top of my head.
But again, it comes down to, what does he need? What is he looking for? And meanwhile, there's no doubt about it. When you're looking to fill these last two spots, it's not necessarily just you're looking for depth. You're looking for guys that can compete for minutes and can get you points and place them and, be a considerable piece of this team.
LeBron is a listed 6'9".
Oh, so he's a couple inches taller than I thought he was.
I'm just going to go with a listed 6'9".
K-State is looking to land still one of the top transfers left, and there's one name that we already knew about. There had already been conversations. It's just how does that take a step forward once the dead period is over on Monday? When dialogue and visits, that's once again getting back underway, and that's Ugonna Onyenso. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. From Kentucky, he's 6'11". He doesn't score much, 3.6 points per game, but man, was he absolutely elite on the defensive side. And also on the offensive side when it came to rebounding. Offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, and he is an elite rim protector. Raw athleticism, that's somebody you can coach into being a really tough competitor. Really tough basketball player. He's on the radar. Watch out for Coleman Hawkins of Iowa. That is a name that's also been thrown out there, who averaged 12 points a game, who will not be returning to Illinois, rather. Did I say Iowa?
Yes,
Illinois is what I wanted to mention there. But with 7 or 8, it's 8 right now when you look at the top 130, 140. And I think in the top 200, there's quite a few more than that left in the portal. K-State's going to look to get at least one for sure, to join K-State. And at that point, if they can get a guy that fits what they're looking for at those two positions, you feel one of those spots with one of these guys still left in the portal, that's major. Absolutely major. And I'm sure, and I don't know this for a fact, because Baba Miller, he's going to Florida Atlantic. Mm-hmm. He was the one that I'd mentioned multiple times as I would really love him to come play the 5 here. He would be so good at that position for us. He's got some of that raw athletic ability. Just started to get going at Florida State with a couple of years of eligibility left. I think Tay and company could really turn him into a really solid player. And we might have our best athletic 5 we've seen at K-State in a long time. But he's going to Florida Atlantic. He's going to stay in the Sunshine State. You got Onyenso, who hasn't scored a whole lot in his career, has that ability to turn into one. And a guy that can get you some minutes and be a solid rotation guy at that 5 position. I think that would check so many boxes for K-State. But we'll wait and see. The names are going to start to trickle out again once we get to Monday. Once we get to, what day is that, June 3rd? Is that what Monday is?
Yes,
June
it is.
3rd?
Mm-hmm.
Once we get there, action is going to pick up. And competition for these names is going to be hot and heavy. It's about getting him in for a visit, getting that commitment, and get him to sign some paperwork. If things go right, this is going to happen very fast. And hopefully, Tank can have this class wrapped up week and a half, 2 weeks, 10 days. Mm-hmm. That is I'd say best case scenario.
A bit longer than what he had predicted, but welcome to the recruiting world.
Because we had him on the last Wildcat Insider. Mm-hmm. That was at the end of April, and he was hoping to have the class done 2 to 7 days. But Arthur Kaluma wasn't in the portal yet. Dede Ames was not in the portal yet. Maybe these guys thought that these coaches were kind of recruiting over them. Not so much Dede Ames.
Right.
But like an R.J. Jones. And like a Jarrell Colbert. I don't think he was in the portal yet. So a lot had happened since then. I think they've done a pretty solid job of making up for those losses. And then some.
Right.
So buckle up. These next 2 weeks are pretty important. By the way, also this next month for K-State football is pretty important because of all the camps they're having. I think the camp started today. This is where K-State really gets to know a lot of high school student athletes, and they're preparing to recruit 2025, 26, 27. These next camps are very important with recruiting. K-State does a good job with these camps, so we'll get an update next week on all that stuff. Let's take a break. When we come back, where'd my outline go? There it goes. Did you know that Patrick Mahomes has a half-brother?
No.
He's the smartest one of the bunch. I'll tell you about Patrick Mahomes' half-brother. So to come, hour number 2, we'll feature Andrew Hutchinson, the best of Arkansas sports. He is the manager of that. He'll come on at 5:10. We'll talk about the Cats in regional in Fayetteville, Arkansas, starting tomorrow. Also get his thoughts on Jerome Tang almost becoming the head coach of Arkansas men's basketball. We also got Bay Fall. Maybe we'll learn a little something about Bay Fall, who played previously at Arkansas. Plus, we'll play another round of Are the Royals Doing Okay? Troy Coverdale will give us the breakdown of that, as they did lose today. And we'll take a look at the Big 12 football slate as TV times, kickoff times, TV destinations have been announced for pretty much all of the first 3 weeks of the season. There will not be a Big 12 Week 0 game this year. Week 2, I think, is going to be really fun. Plus, there's a television destination for one of those games in Week 2 that is hilarious to me. And we'll talk about it coming up in the next hour. Did you know that Patrick Mahomes has a half-brother? I did not know that until today. And that is thanks to an announcement of a transfer for Rice football.
Oh, ho.
Patrick Mahomes' half-brother, his name is Graham Walker. So already a little confusing, right? Well, he'll be transferring to Rice to play wide receiver after graduating from Brown University. This is where the smarts comes from. He graduated from an Ivy League school in 3 years. And with the last year of eligibility, he'll head to Rice because he wants to play in the NFL just like his older half-brother Patrick Mahomes. So you're wondering how did this happen? You don't recognize the last name Walker. So Graham is actually the son of Patrick Mahomes Sr. But Graham grew up living with his mom and stepdad.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how much Patrick Mahomes Sr. has been in his life. Doesn't even take his last name. Last name is not Mahomes.
Right.
But apparently Patrick Mahomes is involved in his life. And sooner or later, they're going to start tossing the pigskin around, getting them ready for the college football season. That'll happen at some point. They do look alike. They do have similar hair. They have the similar face, jawline. No beard on old Graham, but there are similarities. You can tell they're brothers.
There's not really a beard on Patrick either.
He's got the chin thing going on, but I don't think the facial hair just doesn't work for everybody.
No.
Last season at Brown, he 44 catches, 515 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. And thinks there's a good shot he'll make it to the NFL next year.
Okay.
So pretty neat. I thought that was interesting. All right. I guess that's it.
I'm trying to fathom the fact that there may be another Patrick Mahomes out there. Who takes the flyer on him? Who takes the flyer on Graham Walker?
I mean, now that word's out there that he's on Mahomes.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I think some scouts are going to be looking a little bit closer now. So I think we know the pecking order now from smartest to dumbest when it comes to the Mahomes boys or the brothers. I would say Graham would be first. I mean, when you graduate from an Ivy League school in 3 years, you're probably pretty smart. I don't know. What is Rice? What are the academics at Rice like?
Yeah, they're pretty hard, yeah.
Okay. They haven't been very good at football lately, so good for them with the academics.
Well, yeah. That would be the reason why they're not usually very good at football.
Patrick, I don't know what his book smarts are like, but his game smarts are through the roof. He'll get his brother Graham there, and then you have, what's his face? I don't see a whole lot of smarts there. I don't think anybody does.
No, not really.
All right, well, I guess we wrap up hour number 1 of the game.
1 down.
Andrew Hutchinson from Best of Arkansas Sports will join us in hour number 2. We will talk a lot about, of course, the regional starting on tomorrow. But I don't know if the Cats are even going to play. They're expecting rain in Fayetteville this weekend. It could be kind of a messy weekend for baseball. But it's not supposed to happen until after Arkansas plays its first game against SEMO. We'll talk with Andrew Hutchinson. If you're going to Fayetteville, he's also going to give us some advice on Fayetteville, what to know about the ballpark, and also nightlife, bars, restaurants, what to check out. Hour 2 of the game is coming up next. News Radio KMAN.